I just want to buy stuff and her not know I bought it. And that's so hard. I think if I knew the name of my bank, I could do it. But I gotta go through her to get that information. I poke around, I'm like, if I had a bank, what bank do you think I would go to? I also, once a week, walk into a bank and go, hello, is my money in this bank?
Welcome to Money Unplugged. I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for being here. If it is your first time here, thanks for checking out the show. Every week I talk with someone about their life through the lens of money, what it was like growing up, how it changes as we get older, and then, we talk about some fun stuff at the end. But if you've been listening for a while, you know that over the last couple months, some of the people I've talked with have crushed it with new books that they have written. Nick Majuli with his book, The Wealth Ladder. David Gardner with Rule Breaker Investing. Morgan Housel just came out with The Art of Spending Money. These books are all great reads, and the trend continues because today I talk with Heather Boneparth. She is an attorney. She's the Director of Business and Legal Affairs at Bone Fide Wealth, which is a wealth management firm that she runs with her husband, Doug Boneparth, who's a certified financial planner. And they have a new book that just came out this week. It's called Money Together, How to Find Fairness in Your Relationship and Become an Unstoppable Financial Team. And here's the thing. I didn't know Heather going into this conversation. I was vaguely aware of her. I would see her now and then on financial social media. I had a hunch this might be a good conversation, even though, again, I didn't know her at all. This is the first conversation we've ever had, and you can decide for yourself, but I think this is one of the most personal conversations that I've had with anyone on this podcast. She does not hold back at all. The good, the bad, all of it. As you will hear, it starts right from the jump. So let's get into it with Heather Boneparth. You grew up in South Jersey?
I did.
Do you have siblings?
I'm an only child and grandchild.
Oh my God.
Yeah, on both sides of my family, yep.
So how spoiled are you?
Well, I would look at my life as a before and an after. I think you could easily say that about me before my parents got divorced. But afterwards, I would say it was probably a different story. But before, yes, I was definitely the queen, and I was always going to be the queen, for sure.
What is the earliest memory you have about money?
It's actually not even one that I wrote about in the book. I remember getting into a fight with my father's father late at night, driving with all of them in the car when we saw a homeless person on the side of the road, and I wanted to give him money. And my grandfather screamed at me and told me that, people need to help themselves. And it was such like this hurtful, like straight to my little girl heart to not understand why you wouldn't just want to help people. And he launched into this story about, people need to pull themselves up and that you can't just give handouts and blah, blah, blah. And just really railed into me about all the stuff I don't understand in the world. And it was a heartbreaking moment for me.
How old were you?
I was probably 8.
That's got to be hard on multiple levels because, on the one hand, it's just my grandfather's yelling at me, which is never a good time. But then, as you said, in your 8-year-old heart and brain, it's such a straightforward proposition. Why wouldn't you try and help someone?
Right. And, so some of my earliest lessons with money aren't ones you necessarily want to carry into adulthood. I mean, my grandfather, my father's father, this same person, passed away rather young. He was around 70. And the last thing he ever said to me was, all that matters in the world is your blood and your money. And these are the lessons that I internalized as a child, which were very much like, to give money is to give love, to withhold money is to withhold love, and to show that you are not worthy of receiving it. And so I internalized a lot of messages. Yeah, I was definitely, I was the only child, and I received a lot of attention from both sides of my family. But my father's parents, they were not generous with their wealth. They were exacting with their wealth. Money was used to buy loyalty and control. And so those were some of my earliest lessons with money, were really around, when I receive, it means I'm doing something right. When I don't, it means I'm not enough. And that something I'm doing isn't enough.
Wow, that's hard. That's really hard.
It's really hard. Yeah. Yeah. It took many years and many mistakes, I would say this, to reconcile the way that I want to approach money as an adult, when those were the lessons that I was taught as a child.
What was the first job you had when you were a kid?
I worked at day camps. I love camp. My kids love camp. Like, we're just camp people. So I loved that. I worked at our local day camp for many years. And even during college, I wanted to go home in the summer and still work at the camp. I love working with kids, and I love being outside, and I love the spirit and just the energy and the culture of working at camp.
There's nothing really like a great summer camp experience.
Nothing. It is such a gift. It is such a gift. I mean, we're very lucky that we're able to send our older daughter away to camp now. She's turning 10 soon, and she goes to sleepaway camp in the summer. And it's just, there's nothing like that experience. Like, the independence, the growth, it's amazing. It's just such a gift. And to be able to shape as an adult, to work at a camp and be able to shape young minds and give them kind of like the tools to grow and spread their wings outside of their family unit is like, just what a privilege and what a responsibility.
Let's move ahead to college. You went to University of Florida?
Sure did. Go Gators.
Go Gators. What was it about journalism that made you decide that's what you wanted to study?
I always loved to write. And I kind of always had I always felt like I had like an inner monologue. Some people say they don't have an inner monologue, which I think is insane. Because I always do. Like, my life is basically one giant manuscript in my brain. But I really I love to speak with people. I love getting to know people's stories. And I wanted to use my skills as a writer to learn people's stories and help improve lives and outcomes. I mean, I really wanted to tell other people's stories, even more so than my own.
You went to law school, though, right after college, yes?
I sure did.
So you get the degree in journalism. Something happens that makes you say, no, I don't think I want to be a reporter, at least not yet. I'm just curious, to what extent, if any, money informed the decision to go to law school? Because
all of it.
All of it? 100%?
100%. I lived, I did the summer at NYU thing that a lot of people do, their senior year, like going into senior year of college. And I spent the summer living in the dorms and interning for a national magazine. I was with Women's Health that summer. And I started to realize that people were making no money, and that I wasn't going to have the financial support to live in a city like New York City without really making money, nor did I want to ask anyone for help. I mean, so my parents were not married at this point for a while. And it became clearer and clearer to me over the course of college how important it was for me to really stand on my own 2 feet and achieve that level of financial independence as soon as possible. Asking for things and asking for support and asking for attention, which, as you can imagine, based on what I told you about my grandparents, it kind of bled into my parents' divorce, and it became this thing where money became this scarcity, this emotional thing. And I was always kind of put in a position of having to ask for things that I needed. And it wasn't like I was asking for money. It was like I was asking, do you love me? How much? And it was very isolating and lonely and a difficult time. And so when I went and I interned in the city and I did the whole thing, and I'm like, I'm never going to be able to financially survive like this. I wanted to do it. I wanted it badly. But I was like, I think this is a safer bet. Like this is a responsible thing for me to do, is to go become a lawyer. My writing skills will help me here. But there really wasn't much like thought behind it. Like I really wasn't thinking about the ROI or about what my career would actually look like. It was like, here's this safe thing that's going to make me a lot of money. And I'm never going to have to ask my parents for a single thing again, which is what I wanted. And that was the thought. At least.
Well, I mean, at least in that sense, it's very straightforward. Like it is a very straight path, even though, as you said, the type of law you wanted to practice didn't really enter your mind.
Yeah, well, it was a very straightforward path that seemed with like it would have straightforward answers. Like I remember sitting in the financial aid office of the law school I ended up going to. And I'm like, I'm worried about whether I can afford to be here. And they did what they did to many millennials at that time period, which was like it was, I guess, 2007 when I sat down with them. And it was like, well, here's your employment chart. Here's the percentage of students that graduate and receive a job earning this salary, because this is the market rate to become a lawyer at a big law firm. And 80% of our class, or whatever the number was, places at those firms. I said, well, it's a risk, but it seems like a calculated risk that's worth taking, and I could pay back the loans. And if I don't like it in 5 years, then I'll go do something else. I can end up back in journalism. I can do whatever I want. Yeah, that's not what happened when Lehman collapsed.
I was going to say, and it's 2007, so the economy's humming along and nothing bad is going to happen.
Well, and also like millennials kind of grew up and became young adults in this era of like optimizing, like do the best thing you can do on paper and it'll all just work out. Like it was, you go to the best school you get into, not the one that's offering you money. You go to the one that's highest ranked. It was still like in that no one was really questioning the ROI on one degree versus the other. You were kind of just in this like rat race of like, well, you climb, like, and the higher up you can get, you pay the money and you go because it's going to be worth it. Yeah. And then that's not how it worked out.
Am I right that the arena of law that you ended up in was the insurance industry?
Yes.
Was that of interest to you, or was it just something that you discovered you were good at?
Neither.
Oh, neat.
Neither. It was where I could get a job. I was incredibly lucky. I mean, lucky, and I hustled. I was relentless in law school to end up to be one of the few people that had a full-time job with benefits even offered to them at graduation. Most people didn't. I talk about this sometimes, about this notion of privilege and privilege as opportunity. And granted, I've had privileges in my life, but you go to law school in New York City, you're going to meet a lot of kids who have a lot of elasticity in their opportunities. So, I needed a job with benefits. My loans were going into repayment. It wasn't an option to take an unpaid stipend job in the field that I wanted to go into. I mean, I wanted to do like First Amendment law. I wanted to work under a GC at a, either at a major publication or in the entertainment field, or do soft IP and do, copyright, trademark issues. But I wasn't going to get paid, and I couldn't afford to not get paid. So I took the job in the industry that I could get the highest paycheck from. And it wasn't even that high, but it was like at least a job that I could live on, So it was, I kind of fell into that industry. I am good at it. And I was good at it. I did spend over a decade in different roles in the commercial insurance industry, not health insurance, to be clear.
I was going to say, just based on your resume history on LinkedIn, you must have had success because you were doing it for as long as you were doing it. So while it wasn't the dream job in the law industry, you clearly adapted and succeeded.
I learned something early on that I think some people never learn, which is just an inherent skill, that I understand the difference between the business and the practice of something. And I understood the business of insurance, and I understood the business of being a lawyer almost better than I was a lawyer. And I realized, but in the same sense, that applies across so many industries, right? Like you could be a great financial advisor if you can't run a practice and you can't manage people and you don't know how to set your rates and you don't know how to take care of clients and you don't know how, like, what good is it? And it's the same thing in law. Like, I understood big picture things that I think a lot of people like miss because they get caught up in the weeds.
It's the same thing in creative endeavors. You can be a great writer, a great artist, a great filmmaker. And if you can't figure out the business side of things, how the money works, there's only so far you're going to succeed.
100%. 100% the same thing. I mean, even launching a book, not to get all meta about it, but it's true. Like, you have to understand that, like, launching a book is not much different than launching a small business.
How much did you and your husband talk about money before you got married?
A lot because of my student loan debt. I mean, it was a cloud over our adult relationship. I carried a lot of shame. I had over $200,000 in student loan debt. And I carried a lot of shame for how things worked out. And that shame made my money behavior incredibly erratic and emotional. And then here I am, starting my adult life with someone who's a financial advisor and who not only a financial advisor, but is the son of serial entrepreneurs. So someone who truly believes, like, you always have the tools to fix your issues. You always have, like, a real, like, can do, you are in control, you are in the driver's seat kind of guy. And here I am, someone who's, like, been letting her career happen to her. I let this thing happen to me. This is, like, how I viewed it. And that this thing was going to continue to happen to me. And that my career was just going to be one big punishment. And I was just going to have to lie down and take it. And that's kind of like how I treated it. And the depression that I felt in those early years of our I like to say, like, our adult relationship, like when we moved in together and, things really got, serious. It was a cloud. It was a cloud over everything. And I remember there was a point where I wanted to get engaged. And I'm like, it's been too long, so when's time's up, And Doug said to me after the fact, he's like, I was never going to get engaged to you during that period of time when you truly didn't believe, like, you deserved good things. Like, and I wanted you to realize, like, how much potential you have, how wonderful you are, and what a beautiful life we have ahead of us. Like, you were not in that space. Why would we insert this great thing into this time when you were just not in a good place? I don't blame him.
Do you think talking about money with a romantic partner, do you think that's something that gets easier over time? Or do you think I'm assuming it gets easier over time. I guess what I'm really asking is, do you think that's a straight line of improvement? Or do you think it depends on dealing with financial issues as they come up in a relationship and eventually, in your case, in a marriage?
Relationships are not linear. Money conversations aren't linear. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring in our lives, our relationships, or even our money, because we don't know what will be required of us. So, I think that you can improve your practice of talking about money over time. But I don't necessarily think that's linear either, because you don't know how life's going to challenge you. Like, Doug and I thought we had it all figured out. Like, when we bought our house, we had refied my student loan debt. Suddenly I felt in control again. I was earning at that point in time. I was the breadwinner. I was in control of our finances again. I had a seat at the table. We had a daughter on the way. We were talking about buying a house. We thought we had it all figured out. And 5 years later, we found ourselves, I found myself in a really difficult place again, but totally different. Like, what had happened was the next unprecedented event, which was the pandemic. We were in a position where I had just spent 5 years having and raising small children. And the way that pregnancy and young motherhood impacts a corporate law career for a woman, you don't need to leap far to understand that there could be ramifications to a woman's career for having children. Between me being in kind of like the Bermuda Triangle of my career, Doug's career was taking off, and suddenly he was earning 3 times my salary. everything changed. That power dynamic changed. So when COVID hit and I was like drowning and plateauing in my career, his had fully taken off. It's no surprise that like I started telling myself certain messages about whose time was worth more, whose career was worth more, and who should be picking up the lion's share of what was going on at home. And time and money are like one and the same. Time and money, time is a currency. I'd argue it's our greatest currency. So now we're in this situation, and I didn't have the words for it for over 2 years, but I felt like I was getting more and more lost in our relationship, in our family life. I was getting further and further from what I wanted personally out of life. And I didn't really have the tools to communicate that, because these were money issues, but they weren't money issues like we'd ever faced before. So I think like that's why I say like, no, it's not just linear, like you learn how to do it once. This is a practice, and all you can kind of do is put yourself in the best place with the best communication tools, empathy and respect and curiosity for your partner to be able to weather whatever comes next. Because us even making it through that point required a totally different landscape in terms of our communication than the stuff we had already been through.
I don't know how much you were watching the action on Wall Street this week. I don't know if you were paying attention to that. The Fed announced another interest rate cut. We had another all-time high for the market. And if you already knew that, then chances are you're an active investor. So let me ask you, why haven't you checked out Ticker? You got to check out Ticker. It's like having your own personal Bloomberg terminal without paying $30,000 a year. You can research stocks with the same kind of professional grade data that the Wall Street analysts use, and it's simple enough for everyday investors like you and me. It's already trusted by thousands of investors across America, around the world. It's easy. Just go to Ticker, type in the name of a public company, and boom, you instantly get analyst forecasts, insider trades, years of financial reports, all in one place. And you can try it for free when you go to ticker.com/unplugged. You can use it to track big name money managers to see what they're buying and selling, like Warren Buffett, for another couple of months, as long as he's still in charge of Berkshire Hathaway. Ticker gives you an easy way to get investing ideas, and you can learn from the best. You can save time, speed up your analysis, and again, you can try it for free. Go to ticker.com/unplugged. That's TIKR.com/unplugged. Click the link in the show notes or go to ticker.com/unplugged. All right, let's get back to Heather. There are married couples that started business together. You and your husband have done that. Writing a book together, though, I'm curious about this because unlike a business, there's a level of creativity to writing a book together. I can see how you have a business with your husband and you essentially split the duties. How do you write a book together? Do you alternate chapters? Is there,
No.
are there creative choices that you're making that he disagrees with and vice versa?
There's a reason this book was written from my POV and not from his. This is my project first. And this was a decision. We did discuss it being a we at the beginning, and we had decided that it would be a me, an I. And the way that, we handled it was we were both present for a majority of the interviews. Doug weighed in from an expert's opinion as an advisor and someone who has sat across the table from hundreds of couples over the course of now nearly 20 years. His insights and expertise were critical to the big picture frameworks that we put together. So I sat down and drafted this in my voice and my language. And then Doug, I'd say, stop what you're doing and read this chapter and tell me if it makes sense. Is this something you would ever, is this realistic? Is this realistic for me to tell somebody to do this? Is this fair? And I also I need the man barometer too. Am I leaning to, because this is not just a book for women. It's a book for everyone. And I wanted to be sure that I was achieving the fairness that I set out to achieve. He had many roles in the project, but the drafting and whose voice it was mine, and it was always going to be that from the start.
What surprised you the most when you were going through the process of writing it?
How much I learned about myself. Not only in speaking with couples who gave me perspective that I didn't even realize how much I needed. Perspective on my own life and our family life. Speaking with these experts, I mean, I always joke with them. I'm like, thank you for the 2 hours of free therapy that you've just... Right. I'm like, well, I'm just saying, just so happened, like if it were to have been me, what would you have said to me?
I'm going to give you a theoretical couple.
I mean, I literally did that. It was so unprofessional. Like I literally did that at least twice. I'm like, but what if this happened?
Right.
And but they're like, all right, Heather.
But what if Doug? I mean, what if this fictional husband?
What if? Right. What if, right, exactly. It was ridiculous. No, but I really learned so much, not only in the perspective I received from the couples we interviewed, but from the experts, like tying together so much about my own life. Like I have more clarity about why I felt the way I felt. I was more honest with myself about things that had happened in my past and how those impacted the way that I came into adulthood and even the way that I still get caught in these loops around money today. There was a lot of self-work and I wasn't expecting it. I was kind of expecting to share a couple of our stories and maybe they'd be relevant here or there. I was not expecting to weave through this, the common thread of like my own like healing, and it kind of happened and I shared it.
Let's go to the speed round. They say that money can't buy happiness, but I think we know that it can. So what is the thing that you have bought that makes you happy?
I really love milestone purchases. I like to buy something to commemorate a special occasion. So like whether it's a special handbag, and I know that I bought this when I had my second daughter and I went back to work, like things like that. So I never feel bad about that. I feel like commemorative purchases are very important.
Have you ever made a purchase that you regret, no matter the price tag, and sometimes you find yourself still thinking about it?
Yeah, my law degree.
Wow, that's a high price tag.
No, but you know what? I don't say that I don't regret becoming a lawyer, but I had options to go to less expensive law schools or to receive money to other law schools. And when I look back, I wish I had more guidance to have made a more critical decision there.
What is the last thing you splurged on just for yourself, not for your husband, your daughters, friends, anyone else, just for yourself?
I went to the mall in a panic last weekend and bought a ton of clothes for book launch time and media and stuff like that. I went ham.
What is something about money that you wish you knew earlier in your life?
That time is our greatest currency. More so than money. Money doesn't hold a flame to time.
What is a charitable cause that you like to support?
I like to give to local organizations because I like to see the fruits of what we do. So whether that is like my daughter's school, like they just built a brand new playground and I'm really excited to go to the opening. I'm involved in our local community centers and we like to give and donate time there as well. I'm a big fan of donating local and supporting local causes.
Amen. Do you have a favorite movie or TV series that has money as a through line?
Oh my goodness. Succession was the best. R.I.P. It ended too soon.
I'm going to ask you a question because you're not the first person to bring up Succession. I'm going to ask you a question I've asked other people. Can you sell me on Succession? Because I watched the first episode and I hated every one of those characters and thought I don't want to spend time with them.
No, they're like so hateable. You don't love them more. But there's something about like the
It's a show I need to hate watch.
It's a show you need to hate watch. But I actually I think that the dynamic of money and power, to me, it wasn't even so much the relationship between them that interested me as much as it was to watch the organization as itself and how the perception of it publicly was shifting around. Like I was interested in it from a business standpoint, from understanding like board votes and things like that, and how a company falls out of favor in the public eye, and like how you can save a reputation and how you destroy a reputation. So to me, like that's what interested me, but I don't feel like any of the characters were redeemable, and I wasn't like rooting for anyone ever.
My friend Bill Mann, when he was on the show, made a similar point where he said, it doesn't get talked about a lot, but from a corporate governance standpoint, Succession does a very good job and a very accurate job of portraying corporate governance, how it should work.
Exactly. And so like maybe that's just like a dorky, like in-house lawyer take to be like, I loved watching it for that reason, but that's truly the reason why, because I agree the characters were not redeemable.
The last thing is a penny for your thoughts. And this is just any sort of wisdom you want to share with people who are listening. It doesn't have to be about money, but it can be.
Just be kind and stick your neck out for people that you care about. Like real allyship is not liking something and reposting it on social. Like show up, go the extra mile, like make an introduction to someone, stick your neck out for somebody that you believe in. Because like, I just think sometimes we've lost the ability, like we've lost the plot when it comes to what it really means to support someone, whether that's somebody in your community, a friend, making an introduction to somebody else they might like, or professional support for somebody else. Like sometimes it just feels like it's gotten too easy to believe that like is enough, and it's not enough.
Right? That was some real talk we had there. Honestly, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. The book is Money Together: How to Find Fairness in Your Relationship and Become an Unstoppable Financial Team. It is out now, available wherever you get your books, in whatever form you like to consume your books. And just like in this conversation, Heather doesn't hold back in the book. It is straightforward, no nonsense. Check it out. You can also check out the Substack that she writes with her husband, Doug. It is called The Joint Account, and it's also great stuff. I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.